Now, the scene shifts to a group of hunters. They've spotted some rare silver slimes. There are 4 in total, and the hunters know they are valuable and tricky to catch. One hunter sneaks up ahead for a better view. He hides behind a tree and warns the others to be careful. They can't let the slimes get away. Just when they plan their move, a figure rushes toward the slimes without waiting for anyone. That figure turns out to be Yukito. In an impressive display, he takes down all 4 slimes with his one-handed sword. It's all about quick and clean strikes. As he defeats the slimes, a system window pops up. It tells him he's got some amazing S-rank loot, silver slime armor, gauntlets, and shoes. The items fall onto the grass, and a golden window offers a detailed look at each item. The other hunters can't believe what they just saw. One warrior hunter is astounded by Yukito's ability to hit critical strikes on every single slime. Meanwhile, a mage-type hunter stares in disbelief at the rare loot. "What a lucky guy," one of them mutters. Yukito just chuckles to himself. He checks his inventory, still amazed at what he's just earned. He feels like he's finally being rewarded for all the struggles he faced in his past life. A flashback hits, showing more of his history. He was once an old bronze rank adventurer, looking pretty forgettable in the world of adventurers. There he is, alone in a Tokyo dungeon. Other adventurers are getting ready for a challenge, but he stands off to the side. Suddenly, chaos erupts. Everyone's phones buzz with alarming news. Monsters are attacking outside the dungeon. Panic spreads fast. People start scrambling deeper into the dungeon, afraid of what might come next. In the midst of all this, a young adventurer tells Yukito to run and get out of there. This isn't the moment to hunt slimes, but Yukito just pulls away from the younger adventurer, ignoring the advice and heading straight towards some slimes he spots in the distance. The young adventurer watches him, noticing something different about Yukito. As everyone else runs from danger, someone bumps into Yukito, shoving him aside and calling him a slime geezer. He hits the ground, and his sword drops, but he doesn't let it get to him. He picks himself up and grabs his sword, continuing on like nothing happened. As Yukito walks, he thinks about the adventure system. He recalls how it works. You fight monsters to level up, which boosts your stats and can even grant you skills. It's the norm for adventurers, but Yukito's situation isn't the same. He checks his stats and feels down. Even though he's level 98, not a single stat is in the double digits. Newbies with minimal experience have better stats than him. Flashbacks show how hard Yukito fought. He tirelessly battled monsters, refusing to lose to anyone. His goal was to level up, even if it took him forever. He pushed himself to his limits, confronting weak monsters just to reach level 98. The struggle was real, but the rewards? Almost non-existent. Time and again, he fought like a champion despite his age. He recalls a moment when he dropped his broken sword after another battle, feeling totally worn out. He knew that level 99 was the highest possible level. His determination grew stronger. He just needed to reach it. With his fist clenched, he faced a group of slimes. He didn't care about how weak he felt. He charged in with fierce determination, fighting even bare-handed. He hoped for a shot at leveling up, thinking that achieving the highest rank would finally mean he reaped the rewards for all those years. In one intense moment, he bites down on the last slime. A system window appears, announcing what he has been waiting for: level up. Another window congratulates him for reaching maximum level 99. Emotion overwhelms him. He raises his trembling hands toward the window, pleading for a reward for his years of struggle. But the next window hits him hard. It tells him his strength has only increased by 1 point. He checks his status in disbelief. After all that hard work, he's only gained a single point in strength. Shocked, he falls to the ground. "Are you messing with me?" he cries out. "Was it all for nothing?" In that moment of despair, he reflects on his life filled with challenges. Tears come as he thinks of how he couldn't save his mother or keep his sister happy. The sadness becomes too much. Suddenly, he's crushed by a massive monster, and just as he's about to die, a window appears, saying a fatal error occurred with his status. Then, there's a repair patch, and his life rolls back to an earlier time. Another window gives him a huge boost in luck with a bonus of 9,999 points. He feels a soft voice welcoming him back. He opens his eyes to see a girl. She's from the Adventurer Guild and hands him his adventurer logo. "From now on, you're an adventurer," she says, smiling. Yukito feels confused, still trying to understand what's happening. The girl notices his confusion and asks if something's wrong. He gives a nervous smile. "No, I'm good." He grabs the logo and thanks her before wandering off to sort his thoughts. Once alone, Yukito pulls out his phone and checks the date. "If I remember right, this is the day I registered with the guild," he thinks. What a whirlwind. Memories flash through his mind about the bonuses he saw just before he died. He checks his stats window. At first glance, they look the same. But then he notices his luck stat is maxed out. Yako was in total shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. In his last life, luck was something that was hidden away. You couldn't really see it, and no one knew how much they had. Now, it was all right there in front of him. His luck was maxed out. Just thinking about the bad luck he had for 70 years made him feel more determined. He wanted to test his good luck right away. He decided to hunt slimes. It was a straightforward task and something he was familiar with. The scene shifted to a bright, open field. It was labeled Tokyo Dungeon First Floor. As he walked, he spotted a group of slimes and couldn't help but smile. "There they are," he said cheerfully. For a moment, he felt a spark of optimism. As he looked at the slimes in that peaceful field, he felt a wave of comfort. "It feels like home," he said softly. But just as he was gearing up to engage with the slimes, he felt something was off. He turned around and saw a shiny object in the grass. Curiosity got the better of him, and he moved closer. To his shock, he discovered a rare silver slime. This was an ultra-rare monster he had only seen once before in his past life. He remembered that the silver slime gave a ton of experience points, but was known for getting away fast. The last time he faced one, it slipped through his fingers. This time, he was determined not to let that happen again. He carefully planned his approach. He knew he just needed to take one more step to be in striking range. But then, out of nowhere, an arrow flew past him and struck the ground nearby. It startled him and messed up his plan. "What an idiot," he muttered angrily. Someone had shouted an apology, but he was furious. However, the silver slime was also startled by the noise and turned to look at Yako. Instead of fleeing, it charged at him. Yako quickly dodged its attack. He was shocked that instead of running away, the slime chose to fight. He got into a fighting stance just as the slime rushed at him again. This time, he was ready. He thrust his sword forward and hit the slime, breaking its core. With a sigh of relief, he saw the slime go down. To his surprise, he leveled up 4 times. But there was a downside. His weapon broke after the battle. He realized he needed something stronger. He tossed the broken sword into his inventory, feeling both proud and a little disappointed. As he took a moment to celebrate his victory, Yako noticed something shiny on the ground where the silver slime had been defeated. When he looked closer, he found a sword glowing brightly. "No way!" he exclaimed. This had to be an S-rank weapon. His heart raced with excitement. He picked it up. It looked powerful, but it had a tiny downside: it was less accurate. Still, Yako felt pumped. He was ready for more challenges. Soon, he spotted not 1 but 4 silver slimes coming at him. It felt unreal. They charged at him, forcing him to fight hard. Yet, he was determined to tackle it head-on. He swung his new sword with amazing precision, landing critical hits on each of them in no time. Each slime dropped more S-rank items, boosting his confidence and resources. Exhilarated by his success, Yako continued hunting slimes for about an hour. He fought 10 silver slimes in total, each battle bringing him rare loot. Eventually, His bag got so full he couldn't carry more. He reflected on how lucky he'd been. It was almost too good to be true. "My luck is real," he shouted, filled with joy. Exhausted but happy, Yako lay back on the grass, looking up at the sky. In that calm moment, he made a promise to himself. He wanted to use his powers for something meaningful. He didn't just want to become great for himself. He wanted to help his family. Most of all, he wanted his sick mother to get better and to see his sister get married. Those were the moments he dreamed of, bringing happiness to them. As he sat up, something hit him hard. Would he even have a home to go back to anymore? He had been alone for 70 years. That thought filled him with sadness. As he put his sword into his inventory, he felt a deep desire to go back home, a place he hadn't truly known for decades. Just then, a teleportation circle lit up around him. He stepped through, filled with determination to reunite with his family. He ran with urgency, shouting, "I have to see them, right now." He was resolved to make up for lost time and use this second chance at life. After a while, Yako arrived at an old apartment building, panting from running. He stood outside, trying to remember which room was his on the second floor. Memories flooded back of his time being homeless. He didn't even remember his room number. But then he spotted the nameplate, Room 203. His heart raced with nervous excitement. Feeling anxious about going inside his home, he reached for the doorknob. "Why am I this nervous?" he wondered. Gathering his courage, he whispered, "All right," and pushed the door open. The door creaked as it opened slightly, and to his surprise, a girl was inside. "Big brother," she exclaimed, welcoming him back. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yako hugged her tightly. "Numi," he called out, burying his face in her hair. She was surprised by his sudden hug and asked playfully, "Is this a prank?" But Yako couldn't let go. He held on tightly, his resolve strong. In that moment, he silently vowed never to let anyone take away what was precious to him. He felt a fierce determination to protect his sister and family with everything he had. The scene shifts to Yukito and Numi sitting together at a table. Yukito is excited. He shares everything that's been happening to him. He talks about his new luck stats and how they've opened up amazing chances for him. Numi listens with wide eyes. She asks, "Can we use this luck to save Mom?" Yukito smiles back at her. "Of course. All it takes is a bit of effort," he says, holding up his drink. His cheeriness shows he's determined to use his luck for his family. The next day, Yukito jumps into action. He trades some rare items he found on his hunts. This gets him a good amount of money. With that cash, he gets ready for an auction. He's ready to bid 10 million for a top-notch potion that helps with status ailments. Then the scene changes to a hospital. Yukito and Numi walk in, eager to see their mom. They knock on the door, and their mom's voice calls out warmly, asking them to come in. Inside, she smiles as she sees them. "How have you two been?" she asks, wrapping them in love and care. Yukito teases, "Mom, that's our line." Numi pulls out some souvenirs for her mom, who thanks them with a smile. But then she gently scolds them to not spend too much money on her and to look after themselves. Yukito reassures her, "Don't worry about money anymore." Numi, full of excitement, says they have one more gift for her. Their mom raises an eyebrow, intrigued. Yukito reveals a glowing potion. He urges her to drink it. Numi explains how Yukito earned the money from the dungeon just to buy this potion. Their mom is shocked. "How did you manage that?" Yukito, feeling shy, replies, "I was just lucky," downplaying his success even though it was a big deal. He hands her the glowing potion, saying, "Here, drink this." Their mom opens the bottle and takes a sip. Almost immediately, she starts glowing with magical energy. The siblings watch nervously. "How do you feel?" they ask eagerly. She smiles and tells them she feels lighter and can breathe easier. Yukito beams with joy. "That's great," he exclaims. Numi cheers, saying, "Good job, big brother." She gives him a high five, showing their strong bond. Their mom then jokes that the potion tastes terrible. Yukito laughs and pretends to offer her a palate cleanser. The potion starts working well. Her symptoms ease. The doctor confirms her illness isn't getting worse. She begins physical therapy to get back her strength. Soon, she gets permission to go home. This feels like a dream come true for her. Numi reassures her, "It's real. Look how much better you are." Their mom enjoys being home again, doing chores, and finding joy in simple things. Numi is super happy to see their mom doing better, but Yukito looks thoughtful. Numi notices. "Why do you look so troubled?" she asks. Yukito explains that the potion is just a quick fix. It can't cure their mom completely. "Numi, we need a legendary item," he says seriously. "Something like an elixir." Numi's eyes widen. "What do we do now?" Yukito explains that they need to get a really powerful elixir to fully cure her. Numi remembers seeing something on TV about this elixir. She tells Yukito that top adventurers have found it. The show explains how this elixir can save people who are very sick, but it's super rare. It only appears in dungeons below the 50th floor. "Plus, you can't buy it anywhere," she adds. Yukito nods, explaining that these unique items are special and tied to who earns them. He tells her they have to defeat a strong monster to get the elixir. This becomes their new mission. While washing dishes, they discuss their plan to get the elixir. Numi asks Yukito if he can go deeper than the 50th floor of the dungeon. The thought makes her anxious. It's a tough challenge, even for seasoned adventurers. Yukito jokes that it's usually impossible. He teases about dying at a dog's death, making Numi panic. She asks how they will get this done. But with a sly grin, Yukito says he mentioned normally. He hints that he has a plan that's different. Yukito remembers that his power isn't just about his luck stat. He has knowledge from his past life. He recalls something important. The elixir can show up on the upper floors of the dungeon too, not only the lower ones as everyone thinks. He imagines the tough golem that guards the elixir as a powerful foe. Speaking of the golem, Yukito explains that the elixir is a super rare drop from this monster. It only appears if the golem is defeated. But getting the elixir is really hard, he admits. It's one of the most sought-after items in the dungeon. Then he shares a memory he heard about. Just once, the elixir appeared in weird circumstances. This boosts his confidence. He smiles to himself while looking in the fridge. Numi sees his smile and teasingly asks about it. Yukito laughs and holds up a drink. "Yes, I really did smile like that," he says with a grin. Numi cheerfully tells him, "You can do anything because you're my big brother." Her belief in him lifts his spirits. He smirks, happy to be teased and motivated. He pours drinks into 3 glasses. "That's a given," he declares confidently. As he raises his glass, he mentions he has to make some preparations. Numi's eyes light up with curiosity. "What kind of preparations?" Yukito smirks again. Deep down, he knows there's always a loophole. He thinks, we have plenty more where that came from. Carrying his homie's photo Takahashi, Yukito thinks he requires some things before diving into the dungeon. First, he needs equipment. He takes the greatsword of the silver slime that is coated with slime tears. In the meantime, Nozomi reaches there. She curiously asks her brother if he is going to the dungeon. Yukito replies yes. She says other warriors wear heavy armors and asks if he is sure he will be fine with this outfit. Yukito scratches his head and calmly replies that is usually the case, but his stats are too low for that. Watching stats, Yukito thinks he is standing at level 21, and apparently he cannot increase anything except his luck. And with these stats, it is impossible to fully equip himself with the heavy gear. All he can do is to swing the greatsword. Besides all of these, he thinks he did learn a lot of skills by leveling up. He learned a skill of Great Layering Strike that unleashes a triple critical attack. Nozomi asks him if he is going to the 5th floor to raise his stats. Also, there are Alice crowns. Moreover, the monsters there have the rare drop miracle fruit. Reaching at the door, Yukito affectionately looks at her. Nozomi advises him to be careful and lovingly gives him a lunchbox. She says he might get full from that fruit, but he should also take it. Yukito takes it and leaves the house. He goes to the 5th floor of the Tokyo's dungeon that is casting demonic reflections. He moves ahead, looks at a monster-like plant and recalls why the dungeon is called so. Also, the dungeon is filled with plant-like monsters, making it easy to get lost. After that, he opens the map and thinks it is a still shallow layer that is already conquered by the other adventurers. Also, he has a map. He will not face any problem. Suddenly, he looks at the treant nest ahead. Treants are monsters that excel in ambushes using mimicry and look similar to the ordinary trees. Also, they have no veins in their leaves. Yukito throws a stone at it. Giant treant gets awakened. Courageously, Yukito swirls giant swords and pierces it with a single strike, and treant gets cut into 2 halves. After finishing the monster, Yukito thinks if someone gives them the surprise attacks, they are pretty easy to defeat. A small fruit is given as a reward that catches the Yukito's attention. He joyfully picks the fruit, takes a single bit, and says it has a weak taste of a pear or an apple. After that, he opens his stats and says it is alright, the taste does not matter. Important is that his stats are increasing. He thinks because of the minor stats boosting effect of the miracle fruit, he can't become strong with the trash stats. Yukito tells after that he hunted the treats non-stop. He continued hunting and eating, hunting and eating. After a large hunt, he opens stats and asks himself if he has reached his growth limit already. Finally, he is at the average level of a warrior. He anchors sword, yawns, and asks himself to finish the day. Suddenly, he turns back and sharply swirls his sword. He notices something bad and jumps away. 2 robbers come there. One is a dwarf named Hiroshi, and the other one is taller named Yamada. Yamada laughs weirdly and says Yukito hogging the hunting ground is not good. Hiroshi says they will teach the newbie some manners. Yukito says they have no adventurer identifications, and asks if they are crawlers. Hiroshi says he is saying the right thing. He asks Yukito to look at him, spoiled, relying on his gear. Yamada smirks weirdly and orders him to leave that equipment, which is clearly behind his position. At this, they will at least spare his life. Yamada is lying down. He seems to have gotten smashed badly. Yukito, looking at him, thinks that as a relief everything was activated properly, and the bee sting attack that the Nemi used is a skill that can be learned at level 25. And in other words, his enemy was a higher level than him. Yukito thinks the bee sting attack guarantees an accurate hit, so it can't be avoided, and in exchange the skill reduces attack power by 30%. But due to the silver slime tears, he enchanted clothes and has a 1 in 3 chance having the damage he received. He ponders, in other words, the damage he received was only about 30% of what it should have been. Yukito seems nervous. He thinks if he had not luck on his side, he would have a gaping hole in his stomach right then. On the other hand, Hiroshi seems stunned. His face is casting a glance of fear. He thinks he did not think Yamada would get taken down in 1 hit. Standing far, Yukito directs his swords to Hiroshi and says if he turns himself in he does not mind forgiving him. Hiroshi anyhow steps ahead. He directs his magical stick towards Yukito and makes a fireball. He tells Yukito that he should not underestimate him. The warriors are easy to handle from this distance. Yukito hangs the sword and says it is all right, he cannot exactly reach him from over there. Hiroshi thinks he is surrendering already. Yukito enters his hand in an invisible drawer and replies he is not surrendering. He withdraws a beautiful stick adorned beautifully with flowers. Yukito laughing says he will use the staff too. Hiroshi somehow laughs but seems threatened. He asks Yukito if he knows about his weapons. Yukito replies he knows it is a staff of nonsense, and he picked it from the fruitless torrent earlier. Hiroshi thinks about Yukito, and in the end he is just an amateur. Moreover, the staff of nonsense is a rare item, but it activates random magic, so that makes it an unstable piece of garbage. On top of that, there is also a bias when it comes to the odds. Also, the odds of casting useful spells are pretty low. There are 40 chances of it. Failing, then, a 30% chance of casting beginner magic. Buffing or debugging is 20% chance, and casting intermediate level magic is only 9. And just hitting that 30 could actually be counted as pretty lucky. But it is impossible to cast the magic he actually wants with the Staff of Nonsense. Yukito swirls the stick in the air. Hiroshi thinks what he is using right then is the intermediate level magic fireball. And even if I does hit the 9% Vance and cast an intermediate level spell, his spell will be stronger because he has strengthened his magic power with equipment. Yukito laughs weirdly and proudly thinks he, a mage, is practically guaranteed to win. And this is the end of his beginner's luck. He throws the fireball at Yukito. Ball heads towards him, but Yukito seems relaxed. He just blows air and takes it easy. Yukito says that he finally uses it. Also winks, and replies he has also finished preparing his attack. Yukito swirls the stick and controls the fireball. He makes it bigger and throws it again on Hiroshi. When a large ball moves ahead to him, Hiroshi gets stunned. He feels fear a lot. He says it is impossible to draw the advanced magic meteor. His nose gets watering when the large fireball surrounds him. His nose starts blowing. Hiroshi asks himself if that is probably an illusion spell. Sweat pops out swiftly and large. He says it is very hot and anyhow requests to escape. He shrieks weirdly before the meteor strikes him with a sudden explosion. Fire flares splash abruptly. Yukito with his burned body is lying down in the dig. Yukito glares at a little flame on a broken stick. He blows air on it and throws it away. He passes a smile and says he is just way too quick. He says he has won. But suddenly he looks back at the crawlers and thinks he should not leave the crawlers alone. He breaks a bale from the tree and says it is Apian, but he should take them outside. After that he restrains them and swipes sweat, saying that it is fine now. He drags them and thinks they should get back above ground. Yukito returns and hands over the crawlers to the police. He says by the time the question is over the sun has already set. He seems tired. He enters the police office where he meets a lady. Yukito apologizes for being late and tells her got caught up in some trouble. The lady instantly asks if he is Takahashi Yukito-san. She laughingly salutes him and tells that the police have already informed them. Yukito says that is great. It means he does not have to explain all over again. She congratulates Yukito on his promotion. She tells Yukito that he has ranked up to silver. Yukito wonderfully asks if he has ranked up or if some kind of mistake has been made there. He says he has not done much yet. She tells Yukito ranking up to silver is not an easy feat. Usually it takes even talented people 3 years to do, and he has to hunt down requested items. She hands over some items and says he has to defeat some monsters to make the needed contributions to the guild. Lady says there is no mistake, and the 2 people he caught were part of the Red Arm after all. Yukito says Red Arm is a widespread organized crime group, and she is saying he earned a ton of contribution points by capturing them. Lady replies that is right, he did a good job capturing them. She says the 2 of them are equivalent to silver ranks adventurers. Yukito thinks it is real. He thinks he guesses they were actually pretty strong, then he could have been in big trouble back there. He laughs and holds the silver rank chain. Lady passes a smile to him and says there he goes again, and his modesty is surely silver rank too. She adds she is looking forward to his exploits beyond the 10th floor. She tells Yukito as the floors an adventurers can challenge is limited by their rank. Copper can go down to floor 10, silver to floor 30, and there are no restrictions for gold and adventurers. Yukito ties it around the neck and says it is all right, and he wants to clear the 20th floor at least. She replies he is rooting for him, but he should not know the 20th floor is quite difficult, and she very least suggests he should restrain from challenging it by himself. Yukito thanks her for advice. After that he leaves the lady desk and heads outside. He thinks he has ranked up much sooner than he had planned to. He asks himself if it does not mean running into those crawlers was actually a stroke of luck. He passes by a notice board upon which the gangsters' names are hanged. Suddenly an old man excuses him. He tells Yukito he trusts he can spare a moment of his time. Yukito replies sure and asks about the matter. Old man asks if he is the adventurer who defeated those gangsters, Yamada Jinbei and Hashimoto Hiroshi. Yukito says they actually attacked him, and he turned the table around. After that he suddenly speaks no more and stares at the old man's body, shivering with tears. Old man holds Yukito's hand and thanks sincerely. Yukito nervously looks at him. Old man tears the name of the both crawlers, saying that they killed his son, and even the police could not touch them, but he caught them for me. Old man starts weeping bitterly. Yukito tries to console him. He says he only did his duties as an adventurer. The old man bows down and thanks a lot. Yukito's eyes are also filled with tears. Old man says now he will go to his son's grave to tell him the good news. Yukito looks at the old man walking and says he does not think he was even thanked once in his previous life. He looks at his hand and thinks he is feeling pretty good now. He thinks the world will be destroyed unless something changes. By then he was already an old man. But now he knows the future. He asks himself if he should not think about it. He ponders he should get ahead of himself, and he is not strong enough to change the whole world. Yukito holds his head tightly. He encourages himself and says first he needs to save his mother, and that is his first priority. On the other hand, the leader of the Red Arm gang's temper is flaring. He blows his hand on the table. He loudly says he can't believe Yamada and Hashimoto got done, and now the other guys would not learn their lesson. Moreover, he would not be able to lay the tax to the big guy either. Saying this, he grasps the knife and stabs it in Yukito's image. Also, he would not let him get away with this. He weirdly says he will kill him, but he needs to be careful. Takahashi Yukito took down Yamada and Hashimoto all by himself after all, and there is no doubt he has got to be pretty strong. He carries his costume and says no matter how strong he is, he has his ways. He ties around him and says he is after him and Yukito's luck is going to run out. Yukito is very courageous for the next hurdles. He is standing in the beginning of the 15th floor. He is determined to overcome the lonely Death Mountain peak. He moves ahead and passes through a winding narrow passage. He thinks this is the place with winding narrow passages and treacherous terrain. Standing some other people next to him, he ponders because of its geographical features, it is difficult to clear it with the group. Moreover, it is hard to be noticed here that there are rumors of it being a breeding ground for crime. Suddenly, a giant eagle rushes towards him. Yukito looks at it. He thinks he will keep leveling up to challenge the 20th floor. He moves the sword vigorously, saying that he will finish learning skills and wants to level up by hunting silver slimes. But they have stopped appearing after hunting very much. Killing another breast, he says he will just have to focus on quantity. After that he smashes some other weird beast and acquires some new items of a sword, arrow, and bow. The leader of the Red Arm gang watches Yukito fighting alone. He oddly looks at the silver slime sword in his hand. He seems offended. He thinks empty hands and no armor represent the Takahashi Yukito. He wrenches his teeth and says he cannot believe Yukito is stepping into his turf. But there is no need to attack immediately, and he decides to wait for him to lower his guard. At night, Yukito sits near the fire. Gang leader notices him all day and even in the evening. He thinks Yukito sitting in the camp looks like he has planned to stay on this floor for a while. He hits upon a plan. He thinks that the bastard does not need his direct intervention. This is his turf. He has the upper hand there. He titters and thinks just like in the natural world monsters have an ecosystem too, and he will use that to his advantage. He goes to the nest of the eagle and kills it. After that he goes to a deep valley filled with locusts. He thinks he will reduce the number of predators and increase the amount of prey. He throws some feed of locust in the valley, and they start eating. He thinks monsters grow at a rapid pace, and if they eat pyramid crumbles they will start overbreeding. Gang leader returns home and says to himself it is time to see. He grasps a dagger thinking this is just a common accident when an unlucky adventurer will get caught in a swarm of monsters. He again goes to the Locust Valley and throws an agent that repels insect-type monsters, thinking it would not attract attention from the public authorities. He says himself it is the finishing touch. The locusts rise from the valley. He laughs weirdly and calls the locust to devour Yukito whole without leaving a bone behind. On the other hand, Yukito is busy fighting monsters. Suddenly, a sound of locusts swarm grab his attention. He asks himself about the sound. He gets threatened as watches the locust swarm. He fearfully asks himself if they are swarms of death hoppers. All are surrounded by locusts. He runs rapidly and thinks it is impossible to handle alone, and he will need to team up with other people. Moreover, he asks himself where he could find a gathering place for adventurers. Suddenly, he recalls in his previous life, he heard that there was a supply base on this floor by someone when he was talking about the triangular mountain base being built. Clearing lonely Death Mountain peaks became much easier. And it's a red dirt cave. He thinks for some reason it wanked in the walkthrough file. Yukito reaches the end of the cliff. He says there is no time to be lost. He slides down in the valley. An accident kicks on the frog beast. He touches the side of the mountain from bottom. He asks if it is the right place, because the color of soil is slightly different. He loudly calls the panic monster and asks it to come out because they need help. He gets angry as he looks the swarms chasing him. He again calls and says he needs to come out because it's an emergency, and moreover he will barge in if he has to. He stabs his giant sword in the cave and goes in. He gets amazed as he watches the adventurers who have been prisoned there. Yukito's eyes get widened.